Mr. Nikola. How you doing, man?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Fantastic. It's kind of cool to just hop into the podcast right away without ever having spoken to you live before. I think I
Yeah,
like that.
it is quite exciting. I've done that a lot of times in our podcast. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. So, man, where are you tuning in from? You in Sofia?
I am in Sofia currently, yes.
How was Austria, man?
Austria was epic. It was really good. Although the conditions were perfect just when I left, they just started
Mm.
getting to the point where I can really enjoy snowboarding. It was more of a skiing conditions when I was there, and I didn't bring my skis, just the snowboard. But it was still fun, man. It was a lot of fun.
Wait, you do both? You do
Yeah,
skiing and snowboarding? No
yeah,
way. What are you better at?
yeah. Snowboarding because I haven't skied in the last 15 years as much, like 2 or 3 seasons, like 2 or 3 rides, something like that. But I'm just getting into it, and I
Mm.
figured out that I enjoy it a lot more now than I used to before. So skiing is awesome, man.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. I'm just earlier today, I looked into split boards because I want to get a split board, like a snowboard that splits.
Yeah, yeah, it's
So I
pretty
can,
cool.
yeah, so I can use it to like walk up the mountain and then slide.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you done that before?
No, but most of my friends do, and they've been nagging at me to get one for the last 3 years. So it's gonna happen soon. Yeah,
Man.
probably this season.
Hey, I'm telling you, if you want to do this in Austria, man, pass by, we'll go together. I'm so down.
Oh, well, I'll take you up on it. I was supposed to do it last year, but I fell while snowboarding and dislocated my shoulder. So the
Oh,
entire
dude.
season was pretty much over. And it was like a very long recovery, but it's all good now.
The classic, man. The classic. It's like shoulder and wrist is what makes people hate snowboarding. That's what usually starts
Yeah,
breaking.
it was very stupid, like the way everything happened. It
Yeah.
was at a very low speed. It was in deep,
Ah.
fresh powder. So you wouldn't expect that something can happen, but it does. But yeah, that's just life, man. Hits you when you don't expect it at all.
100%. But yeah, mate, tell everybody who you are, what you do. Like, why are we talking about snowboarding? What's going on?
Well, we're talking about snowboarding because I just came back from Austria, and obviously Max is from Austria. I actually proposed that we meet in person, but we ended up doing it over Zoom. And we're speaking today because we have a bunch of mutual friends, like a lot of them. So Alex hooked us up. Alex Waller, pretty cool guy, but also Mario Tomic is one of my closest friends, and he's one of your closest friends as well. So it's a small world, man. At least small Europe, at the very
It really
least.
is. It really is. But
Yeah.
what exactly is it that you're doing? What makes you, how do people know you usually? Let me put it that way.
Well, here in Bulgaria, people know me as probably one of the most prominent fitness coaches. That's our main business with my business partner. That's how I know Mario. He helped us a lot when we were starting out, and actually when we were trying to figure things out in terms of business. So I owe
Mm,
a lot to him. He's
mm.
probably he is our first mentor, sorry, for
Ah,
sure.
so
Yeah, so he helped us a lot, and we developed this fitness coaching business. Currently, we have around 300 clients, active clients. We're a big team of 12 people. It's pretty cool. We also do have a podcast in Bulgarian, probably in English soon as well.
sick.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's not fitness related. It is though business mindset related. So we actually have a lot of entrepreneurs here from Bulgaria that are in the tech industry, IT sector, and they sold their companies for multiple, zeros behind the comma. So one of our friends sold it for north of 30 million, his SaaS company. Yeah, so it's very interesting to talk with those people, and some of them turned friends after we talked with them, kind of like this podcast. And it's very interesting how you don't know a person, you just were introduced by someone else, and you end up having a very deep conversation that you probably won't even have with a person that you know for a longer time. So
Mhm.
it's very interesting, the dynamic of a podcast. And for myself personally, I want to do a podcast in English, mainly to talk to cool people. That's
Yeah.
kind of like Bulgaria is small, not gonna lie. Like the
Mm.
amount of interesting people here is not, it's very limited.
Same reason why I want to do a podcast. I literally, like, I don't know if you know, but this podcast used to be just monologue podcast. It used to be 10, 20 minutes of just me talking about a topic. And that's cool. I'll probably record episodes like that in between. But then I was just like, why don't I just abuse the podcast and get in touch with cool people like you and just be like, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? Let's talk.
Yeah.
And nobody says no to that. Everybody's hyped. Everybody's like, yeah, let's do it. And it's such a beautiful excuse to just talk to people and kind of mingle amongst each other's brands and stuff like that. Because then, you know, I'll promote you, you'll promote me. And it's just a really cool thing. But the promotion doesn't even matter as much as I even have talks with people that have like zero brand. I'm just like, I just want to talk to them. You know, one thing that you kind of said was pretty cool. That's like, you kind of meet people that they later become your friends. And, you know, this guy sold for 30 million and so on and so forth. I remember the first kind of like, quote unquote, rich person that I met was in health. Actually, well, before that, also kind of with RSD, of course. But with RSD was kind of different. But I remember then a friend of mine, Matteo DM, he's a German dating coach. He had this other friend of his that makes like whatever, 60K a day or something like that. And I'm like, and he's like, yeah, let's hang out with a friend makes 60K a day. And I'm like, sure. And for me back then, that was so crazy. This guy makes 60,000 euros a day and just like hanging out with him. And it was just some German dude, just some online marketer, you know, just some German online dude eating kebab on my couch. And I'm like, and in my head, you know, because you're trying to see that they're different. You're trying to look for this magical thing. Like there must be something different about this guy who makes 60K a day. No, it was just a regular dude who made a lot of money. And, you know, like, I feel like a lot of people think like, okay, rich people, they wear a suit and whatnot, and they look, you know, whatever, or like gold chains or something like that. But kind of like our generation, yours and mine, of people that make a lot of money, we're just regular dudes that wear regular t-shirts. Some of them maybe wear expensive watches, but they just look totally normal, like any other freaking guy. And it's that online entrepreneur generation that is just like a regular dude, but makes a ton of money in the background.
Yeah, because you have leverage because of internet.
Yeah, true.
That's massive leverage that you can exploit. And I figure out the same thing. Most of the people I talk to, they're very successful, like way more successful than me. I think there's a bunch of things they do better, but one of the main things that's in common is just consistency and persistence above average. Because most people give up on most days. They'll work like 200 days instead of like 300 days on their goals. And it's just having clarity and being consistent and persistent. I think that's the gist of it. If you read most self-help books, that's kind of the same thing that they talk about all the time. They just tell you through different stories.
It's crazy that it's so weird because I'm in my hometown right now, and a lot of my old friends all of a sudden want to hang out with me and stuff like that. And they all ask kind of like the same questions, and they all come in with the same kind of mind. I'm sure you experience this all the time. And then it's just like, it always comes down to like, I just didn't stop. You know, I just never stopped executing, never stopped learning either, never stopped losing. And I think that's the biggest difference. But I had this one question I wanted to ask you. I'm in a phase right now of my life where I've been working out for a long time. Also, you know, Mario Tomic was my first fitness coach. And
I know, man, you're still on the website, like the poster boy.
I still on the website?
Yeah,
that's amazing.
A fitness master, yeah.
Hell yeah, that's so cool. But the thing is, man, I've been in it. How long have you been lifting now?
14 years.
Jeez, man. You know, I've been lifting for about the same time, but I look nowhere as good as you do. Of course, I was also touring in the meanwhile and slacking off like a crazy guy. But here's my question: is like, does it ever get boring for you, just as like gym lifting?
Of course. Actually, this is a very good topic, because I think most people that are in this situation will relate that after a certain period, you kind of get the most out of the gains you can. And then it's like the slope of diminishing returns is just crazy. Like you have to pretty much be a professional bodybuilder to make the smallest amount of progress. And at that point, you have a decision to make. Do you want to change sports, or do you want to start using steroids? And for myself, I know that the answer is like change sports, do something different.
Wait, let's just stay that real quick. Let's just stay that real quick.
Yeah, okay, sure.
You want to change about or use steroids?
It's kind of
It's
the
so
choices when
true.
you come down to it. Like, yeah, maybe you could go into powerlifting, which is what I did for a time, and you can progress a lot more in strength because it's more technique based, and you can really improve in terms of proficiency on the main lifts. But even that, after a while, it's not boring, but it just destroys you, man. Like when I was doing powerlifting up until a few months ago, yeah, I was stronger than ever. But if I didn't sleep 8.5 hours, it was a very hard day for me. And then sometimes after workouts that last 2.5 hours long, just because I can't do the work in
Yeah.
less amount of time, I'm just brain dead. Like I sit in front of the computer, I want to work, and I'm just slow.
Mm.
So that also hits a ceiling, like where you can get. Specifically for me, I'm not the guy with the best genetics, so the ceiling is not that high, probably above average, but still not elite level. So you have to think of, okay, what do you want to do? And for me, if I'm not progressing, if I'm not growing, if there's no challenge, although you can say progressing upwards of this point is a challenge, but the trade-off is not in my favor. So I have to give up a lot of other things that I like, and it will ruin my balance. So the easiest thing to do is just find something new that fulfills that need for learning and progressing and improving. And for me, that was jiu-jitsu. Obviously, a lot of guys do it nowadays. And I mean, how can you be a podcaster without doing jiu-jitsu, man? Like, I'm surprised you're not doing jiu-jitsu.
Bro, I was literally writing my videographer like 2 weeks ago. Literally the words, "Hey, dude, let's start jiu-jitsu classes in Prague."
Yeah, of course. Yeah, man. I mean, it's only natural if you do a podcast to do jiu-jitsu, but
Dude,
it is quite fun. It is quite fun.
wait, hold on. So, but that was one of the things that bugged me because I'm like, okay, then I have to go to the gym and do jiu-jitsu at the same time. But you kind of just now made it sound like from jiu-jitsu itself, I can still progress with my body and my physique, or did I misunderstand that?
Well, probably not progress, especially if you stop going to the gym and using resistance exercise. But you can reduce the amount of resistance exercise you do, and I'm pretty sure you're still going to maintain a lot of what you've built. Because the hard part is building muscle, but maintaining it is easy. And jiu-jitsu is hard, man. Like you have to push pull quite hard. So upper body is quite pumped after a session of jiu-jitsu,
Oh shit.
and that is probably enough to keep whatever you've built. Especially if you've been training a long time and you have a solid base. And I did 3 months entirely doing jiu-jitsu. That was last year, just before I dislocated my shoulder, and I looked very well. Like I probably look better than I do now. I was obviously leaner, which helps, but still, man, I was looking really, really solid. Like you wouldn't tell that I don't do gym at all. So you can still do, fitness, resistance exercise twice per week, and then 3-4 times jiu-jitsu, or something in the middle, 3-3, stuff like that. So it's good. You probably feel fine.
So you completely stopped lifting and went only jiu-jitsu?
Yes, for a time being, yes. I wanted to experience what it would be like to do jiu-jitsu every day, and it kind of sucks, but I like it. And I like it because it's hard and it sucks.
Yeah. And you probably got your ass whooped for the first months.
I still get my ass whooped, man. Like on the regular. There's no point in time where you don't get your ass whooped. It's just how it is.
Dude, you're selling me jiu-jitsu so hard right now. I'm gonna start.
I'm glad.
I'm gonna start.
Glad.
Mark my words. I'm gonna start jiu-jitsu classes, and
there it is.
I keep
a
hearing,
true podcaster.
It's the same thing. Like every time I start something, I have the thought, and then randomly people over the next weeks randomly tell me about it, and then I'm like, okay, I'll do it. It was always the same. Jiu-jitsu, you're like the second or third guy that talks about jiu-jitsu, and I'm like, I don't know, it's the universe keeps telling me what I got to do. It's so funny. It's so freaking funny. I wish I had another example here, but I don't have any off the top of my head. But it's always the same where I'm just like, or Japan. Like I just booked a month in Japan. I'll go there in April. And I'm like, nice. I have the random idea maybe one day. And then people tell me about it. Like, oh, I'm going to Japan. And I'm like, what? Really? Me too. Like, I'll do it. Fuck it. And then I end up doing it. It's really cool how like the universe works sometimes, I guess. And now you're back in lifting a little bit, or you're not doing anything because of the shoulder thing, or?
No. I recovered the shoulder, so it took around 7 months of rehab. Like the first 2 months, I couldn't put my socks on. My wife had to help me out with this. It sucked. It was a very bad tear. But then I started doing resistance exercise, mostly fitness, a lot of rehab, but lifting, then pure powerlifting, because that was easier on my joint, shoulder joint than jujitsu. And
Mm.
now I do jujitsu mostly because it did a block of powerlifting. I'm like, okay, like I crushed my PRs, all-time PRs, and I feel bad because when I do powerlifting now, I'm at the point where I use very high loads, so I'm really tired all the time. I'm not productive, and it's just not the top of my priorities to be a powerlifting athlete. And I'm kind of leaning in that direction if I continue. So I decided to go back more to lifting for fun. So just maintaining what I've built in the gym and then doing jujitsu more with more deliberate practice. So becoming better at jujitsu itself.
How do you practice the jiu-jitsu stuff? You just roll with somebody, or you have like katas or some shit?
It really depends on your academy. So the place I go to is called Twisted Jiu-Jitsu. It's here in Sofia. It's a great place. And usually do a warm-up, which would be 10-15 minutes, and you do just general warm-up, but then some stuff that has some applicability to whatever you roll with someone. Then you do a technique for around 30 minutes. So you drill something with a partner. Usually the instructors show it. You have some curriculum that goes over 8 weeks and it just
Mm.
repeats. And it's different classes you can go to. So beginners, then you have fundamentals, which is the intermediary stuff. And then you have advanced classes, you have gi no gi classes, and also you have an open mat class, which would be either you drill something that you want or just roll for 2 hours with people.
Sick.
Most people just go and fight. And after every workout, well, sorry, not workout, but after at the end of every session, you have 3 to 5 rounds of sparring. That would be how they do it in my gym. In other gyms, they do it a different way. It really depends where you go and who the head instructor is. For us, it's Terra. That's the guy that's running the association. And it's really fun, man. Like, no matter how you choose to do it, it's just very different. I think I'm also interested in other combat sports. I think they're fun. They add the layer of complexity because you've built like a solid base, but it's humbling in the sense that when you go, you realize that it doesn't mean anything. Like whatever strength you've built, it's a separate quality because
Mm.
some people are very overconfident just because they can deadlift like 250 kilos or whatever. That doesn't mean anything
Yeah.
to people in the dojo, like in the gym. Sure, you're very strong. Hats off to you. It's actually a very cool thing to achieve. I've done it, but it's nothing when you go to the gym and you realize that there's a lot of other things your body can do. So mobility, coordination, speed, precision, strategy as well when it comes to combat sports, like what they call fight IQ. In
Mm.
jiu-jitsu, there's a lot of that. It's kind of like chess in a sense.
Yeah.
And not that I was ignorant to it before. I knew going to the gym is probably the easiest thing. So just general fitness.
Mm.
Then powerlifting is a step above it in terms of complexity of the lifts and programming. And then combat sports or other more demanding sports, they have another layer of complexity on top of it. But it's just different when you experience it. So I
100%.
can know it all I want, but it's just different when you go in and you have to do it. You just feel it on a more visceral level, if it makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, I have a bunch of clients actually that come from MMA or jiu-jitsu or kickboxing backgrounds. And these guys are just made different, man. Like people that have done it for years on a semi or fully professional level. These guys just different, man. I have these two clients, Zoltan and Matthias Exedy. They're young when they came to us. I think they were 19 when they joined our program. They're these two
Nice.
Hungarian twins, and they do professional MMA fighting. And they're sitting in my calls, asking me questions like all humble and, how do we do this? And then I go to their Instagram, I see them beat the shit out of people. These young guys that didn't even have beard growth when they joined us. They were beating the living shit out of people. And I'm like, holy, like, I would not want to be on the other side of these guys. I'm glad they're my friends, you know? And, you know, I think there's this certain type of confidence that you get when you know how to fight, especially with jiu-jitsu, because everybody that I know that does quote unquote only jiu-jitsu and not mixed martial arts, they're very, very chill dudes, very, very calm dudes, because they know, like, whatever, 80-90% of fights end up on the floor. And that's where you always win when you know jiu-jitsu, even if you just know rudimentary jiu-jitsu, compared to someone who doesn't know anything how to fight. Like, you know that you kind of feel safer in a way, even though you know that 99% chance you'll never have to use it in the outside world. And it's interesting to hear you talk about it, because for you, it's more like is much less to do with self-defense, whatever. It has just, for you, it seems to me it has something to do with growth and a new challenge and learning.
Exactly. Because I mean, I'm from the Balkans, so even if the fight ends up on the floor, it's like 10 guys on top of you. So good luck with your jiu-jitsu. So the best thing, like the best martial art, if you're from the Balkans, is like long distance running or parkour or something like that. So you can just escape and not have to fight. And yeah, I'm not a combats expert, so I'm not gonna say which is more applicable to street fight. I think social engineering is the best option. Just diffuse a situation if you can. Like, no one wins from a fight, even if you technically win. But yeah, for me, it's personal growth. And I also hear a lot of people talk about how much jiu-jitsu gave them in terms of personal growth. And for me, it's kind of the opposite. It's like, I have all these qualities that are part of my value system, and they're just translated into jiu-jitsu. So it's the other way around. It drew me because it coincides with a lot of my values. So it's very interesting, but also the community is very, very awesome. Like, all the people that go to my gym are quite established. They're cool people. As you mentioned, a lot of them are quite chill, just because it's very humbling. Like, even if you have a good day where you kind of did okay, the next day they just crush you, like someone steamrolls you. And it's also very humbling, at least for me, I can speak from personal experience, that when I'm fighting with someone, at some point, especially if it's like a choke, especially if it's, for example, a rear naked chokehold, I realized that the only reason I'm alive is because I tapped and because the person decided to let me go. That's pretty much the only reason why I'm alive. And I did my best in that fight. It's not like I gave up. I did my absolute best, and someone just calmly dismantled me and was about to finish my life, like just end me on the spot. So it can be not humbling. Like, it is humbling by definition. And obviously with other martial arts, mixed martial arts, you can pretty much be in the same spot, but usually they knock out you. And yeah, if they continue kicking in the head, then you die. But it's not, I haven't experienced it. It's probably similar, but I don't feel like it's the same. I think if I get knocked out, I'll just be scared. I'm just being honest here. But not in the sense of, oh, I'm going to be dead. Because if someone knocks you out, then, they just walk away. They probably don't continue, hitting you in the head, depending on where you're from. But when they choke you out, they choke you out. You just go to sleep, and if they don't wake you up, bad stuff happens.
Yeah.
Or maybe they just don't realize when they have to stop choking you, even if they don't want to kill you, and they kill you. So it's very weird. It's very different in terms of an experience.
Yeah, it's crazy when you think about UFC and MMA fighting. It's basically modern gladiators. The only difference is that last step, where 2,000 years ago in ancient Rome, they would have just killed the opponent. That last step is just missing. But other than that, it's the basic same concept. It's like, it's one man against the other, or one woman against the other, and they're literally trying to kill each other. The only difference is that we have a ref that basically says, okay, it's over, it's done, before that, killing blow would happen. It's exactly like you said. It's like the only reason why you're alive is from the mercy of the other person. And
pretty much.
Yeah, and that's pretty freaking crazy. It's pretty. Have you done it in other countries as well as you were like traveling?
No, no. When I resumed traveling after COVID and everything else, I dislocated my shoulder, so I couldn't do it
Mm.
for like 7, 8, 9 months. And now I looked up near Kaprun if there's like a jiu-jitsu gym, but the closest one was in Salzburg. So I was like,
Uh-huh.
okay, just wait, and whenever I travel to somewhere else, I'm gonna try it out. But it's really fun because when you have a strong sense of community, like jiu-jitsu, and another example would be CrossFit.
Mm.
It's kind of like a religion, and you're welcomed everywhere you go just because, oh, you're one of us. So it's a strong community. And I've heard similar stuff about RSD because I wasn't into that. Like I missed all of RSD and everything that
Mm.
happened. But man, just to tell you, um, looping to the beginning of the conversation, but I don't think there would be much of an advertisement for you because everyone I know here knows you. Like everyone just in my circle, like all of the people that follow our podcast, they're in our Discord and stuff like that. They just know you because
Mm.
they're from the RSD days, and now a lot of them, if not all of them, are entrepreneurs,
Mm.
freelancers. Like I think it transcended into personal development, as far as I know and I've heard. So yeah, in a
It
sense.
it's crazy because one of my very first mentors was RSD Tyler, aka Owen Cook. And he back then, that was when I was his assistant, I think 2013. He back then, quote unquote, predicted that exact thing. He's like, listen, right now, all our followers are mid-20s guys. They all just want to get their dating life handled. They want to get better with girls. But I'm in for the long run. And he said, like 10 years from now, a lot of our followers are not going to be 20-year-old guys that just quote unquote want to get girls, but they're going to be millionaires, entrepreneurs, world travelers, people that have built something significant in their life because they started with this whole how to get girls thing with us with RSD. And back then, me being just 20, I'm like, or 22, 21, 22 years old, I'm like, this is silly. Like, you're thinking way too far ahead. This is super irrelevant. You might mean, lo and behold, literally 10 years later, it's exactly like you said. Like, a lot of these guys, they're entrepreneurs, they're millionaires, they have their own companies, or they're working in some crazy awesome company. And I've thought about this a lot over the years, and I've even been thinking about this way back in days when I was still in RSD, that's kind of how that's how you bait a guy into improving themselves with this whole girls idea. In fact, it's rare that I meet someone like you who says, I kind of missed the girls thing and I went straight into personal development. Because usually, when you come to a 20-year-old guy and you say, hey, listen, you should work on yourself, you should read books, you should overcome challenges, you should, get personal development, feel uncomfortable, get mentors because it will be good for you. Most guys are like, nah, I'd rather smoke weed and play video games. But if you go to a 20-year-old guy and say, hey, listen, do you want to get a lot of girls? Do you want to have the Dan Bilzerian rock star lifestyle where all the girls are going to love you and they're chasing you? Or even simpler is, do you want Jenny from work to finally notice you? Do you want to finally have the girl text you back and not ghost you? Well, guess what? Read books, go meditate, go work on your business, go to the gym. And, and then all of a sudden the guy does it, right? Because so was it for me. I was lazy. I was useless. I was heading nowhere with my life, to be frank. I was drinking beer every single day. I was playing video games. I was going out on the weekends just to get drunk with my 3 other loser friends. And the only reason why I stepped up in life, the only reason why I started going to the gym, the only reason why I started talking to other people at university just to become friends, the only reason why I started reading books, the only reason why I started meditating was because it was that idea of like, it helps you with girls. My stupid 20-year-old brain didn't understand any other chocolate dangling in front of any other carrot dangling in front of me. You could tell me anything else. Meditation is good for you because the beta brain waves. Gym is good for you because it makes your brain, your bones stronger. And none of that mattered to me. All I wanted to do is just have fun, get drunk, and repeat it the next day. But because someone told me this is going to help you with girls, now my stupid brain all of a sudden had a reason to do it. And then after a couple of years of that, I realized the value of these things in and of itself. I realized how good it feels when I come home from the gym. I realized how awesome I feel after I take a cold shower. I realized how zen I feel when I do meditation. I realized how many things I learned in life in general just when I read some random book. But you gotta have to bait most of these guys in there with this whole idea of like, let's get girls.
Yeah, I think I'm not an expert in this, but just from what you mentioned, I think there is an advantage to being at a disadvantage. So if it's hard for you to get girls, and obviously that's one of the things, one of the primary things that motivates men, then you need to put extra effort, and that extra effort is found in other stuff that obviously it's useful in other situations and aspects of your life. But if that stuff was easy to you, maybe it would have been a different Max. Maybe you wouldn't have been into personal development.
100%.
Maybe you'd have just had like a corporate job, a wife, because you just got fed up from, having an easy time with girls. So you just got a wife. Like just go into the regular track that society lays out for you. And in a sense, because some people would probably watch this podcast, and when you mentioned like that you don't look as good as me, and obviously I don't look that amazing as well, they would be very curious about why I do what I do, which is fitness. And I think the parallel I'm making is, for me, it was an advantage to not have the best genes and to have things happen hard for me, because that meant I have to go above and beyond everyone else. I had to learn more. I had to become better. I had to become the absolute best that I can to look like slightly above the average person that goes to the gym. And I've seen some of the guys with the best genetics fall off because it's so easy for them. It's boring.
Yeah.
Like they just eat a kebab and drink and train like with a very low intensity. They just go to the gym recreationally 3 times per week and look amazing.
Yeah.
And now they look like shit, to be honest, some of them, because it was so easy. There's no motivation to handle that. And I've heard another expression recently, another thought. It was from Chris Williams. I think he was a fitness guy, and then he transitioned into podcasting, the Modern Wisdom podcast, and I think he was on someone else's podcast, but he said something very interesting, that for some people, the best thing that can happen to them is to hit rock bottom, to go into that really, really dark spot. It kind of pushes you to make a decision, get better or suffer like hell. Because for most people, it's bad, but it's not bad enough to induce a reaction. Like your life sucks, but it doesn't suck that much so that you need to change. And you probably see this with business, with people that come to you for coaching. And I see it with my business when people come to us. Some of the time is because things were bad for years, but they were not bad enough. And only when your girlfriend leaves you, only when your wife leaves you, only when you come back from the dock and he says, well, guess what, man, you're not going to live another 10 years to see your kids. Only then do people kind of have this shock, this realization that they have to make a change. So I'm not sure if that's relevant and if it's true, but I think it's similar with dating and not being anywhere in your life when you're 20. You have to do something. And probably some of the people that chose not to do something, not to go into personal development, thinking they're too shy to talk with girls or whatever, didn't believe all that stuff back then. I'm not sure where they are. Again, I think it's an advantage to be at a disadvantage, but only if you're open to the idea of working your way out of it. So it's the opposite of a victim mentality. It's like the underdog mentality. So knowing, okay, I'm up against the big guys, but I'm gonna give my best, do my best, and eventually with hard work and perseverance, I'll become better and beat them.
It's been 100% the same for me. 100%. I've always had my brother's older, so I've always had someone stronger, better, faster, smarter. I was always the kid who got beat up when I was fighting with my brother. So I've developed that exact underdog mentality also because my brother was always naturally very, very good with girls. He was a very social kid. In my 5,000 people village, he was really popular. He was amongst the most popular guys. and I was just this stupid little brother. So I was always thinking like some people have it and some people don't. So my brother had that natural charisma, was naturally funny and popular with girls, and I was just naturally the opposite, naturally shy, naturally introverted, naturally not good with girls. And then what was the ultimate mind fuck for me, the ultimate epiphany, was when I was beginning of my 20s in Vienna. I realized it's not about you have it or you don't, but you can actually learn it. And that was for me the big epiphany when it came to dating. It's like, hey, hold on a second. It's not that black and white. Just because you haven't had it naturally doesn't mean you cannot learn social interaction. Doesn't mean you cannot learn to become charismatic. Doesn't mean you cannot learn to have the courage to walk up to a girl. And I said this many times whenever I'm, for example, talking to a beautiful girl or having dinner with a beautiful girl. I literally, honestly, many times admit, like, I would never be able to talk to you, let alone have you here for dinner, let alone look in your eyes, because you're way out of my league. And I still feel like that, but it's totally fine because I've cultivated a feeling of I am good enough. I've cultivated, worked hard on the social skills that it takes me to be an interesting person. And I'm happy that this happened. Exactly what you said, Nikola, is like, I'm happy that I didn't have it in the beginning, because that made me work even harder. And that made me also appreciate what I have, because I know I'm an idiot. I know I'm lazy. I know I'm not fucking smart, but guess what? I just outwork everybody. And that also means that if I'm making whatever, 20K a day, I'm freaking happy about that. Because I'm like, a guy like me is supposed to make nothing. A guy like me is making 20K maybe a year. But you know what? I don't care. I'll just outwork every single one. I don't give a shit. And I'm happy I get to do it like that. I'm freaking happy I get to do it like that. My question to you is, because you kind of mentioned, and hold on, I gotta plug in my computer here. Because
Sure,
you kind of mentioned like you skipped this whole girl stuff. Like, what was it then for you to that made you start working on yourself, hit the gym, and all that jazz?
My path was slightly different. Well, probably not slightly, but okay. So I'm from a culture where it's very accepted to start going out when you're probably 14. And my parents gave me a lot of freedom, and I didn't abuse that freedom. I actually never liked, and still to this day don't like drinking or smoking or doing whatever. I just don't enjoy it. But I was out a lot and I socialized a lot. And by the time I was 18 and I just turned 18 and I went to uni, I was kind of bored from partying, which is weird. Like you usually go to college and you want to party. I was kind of bored from it because I was already doing it for a while. And I wanted to learn things. And the disadvantage to doing that when you're 14, whatever, 15, 16, 17, 18, is you don't learn to learn efficiently. And I had I don't know how to phrase it. I don't know if it's luck or if it was disadvantageous, but I was smart enough to go through school and get good grades, but I'm actually smart, like not super smart, super structured, whatever. So maybe in essence, I knew what to study and when for the Bulgarian system. But when I came to the Netherlands, went to study in Rotterdam, it was very hard for me. Like I had a very, very hard time because I mean it's a very elite university, one of the best in Europe, and I had a very hard time getting grades. And I wasn't focused on partying as much as I was on getting grades. There was a lot of stress. Coming back to it, because back then I didn't know what it was. So I developed issues with my sleep. So I had light insomnia, stress-induced insomnia with like severe episodes at times. And I was just in a very dark spot. And the way I grew up was, and the story I told myself was to make excuses to protect my ego. So if something happened, it wasn't because of me, it was because of whatever. You know, the type of person. I was that type of person for one reason or another. And things were going very bad, like progressively bad. I don't have any uni friends, just like a couple, and we're not best friends, we're just kind of our acquaintances. So most people have great friends from university and they form deep relationships. And I didn't do that, unfortunately. I wasn't aware enough to do it, at least in my bachelor. And there was this point where it's exactly what I mentioned. It was bad, but it wasn't bad enough. And I had to kind of reach a point where things were so bad that I had to make a decision and change something. And then I realized those are two separate occasions, but I'm just going to blend them. So first I have to work out and, train and start eating better. Not that my eating was bad. My diet wasn't that bad, but just, try and improve to repair my sleep. So to at least get that handle. And I was also very sick, not related to the insomnia, just bacterial infections in my throat, larynx, whatever. But also there was the point that I came to the epiphany that all my life I was making excuses to protect myself from the truth that I'm a loser and nothing good happens to me because of me. And it's very weird because I didn't go to psychotherapy at that point. I went way later in life when everything was good. I actually went to, just maintenance work. But at that point, it was very liberating because most people think that's a harsh point in their life when they realize that everything that happened to them is because of them and things are not going well because of them. But it was very liberating because the second thought in my mind was, well, then it's up to you to fix it. So you have the power, in this case, me. I have authorship of my life. And if I start doing things are going to happen because I'm not doing anything. So I can't expect something to happen to me just because of the charity of the world and the universe. Like nothing's going to happen to you. Nothing's handed to you. So I just started changing stuff like here and there, just habits. I started becoming way more sociable, pushing myself to be. I made it as a game to try to strike a conversation and even become like friends, quote unquote, with random people in the street. Like if I go to the grocery store, go to the gym, talk with the person at the reception, and that became like a top superpower. It's like the best thing you can do. And I guess you guys do it in pickup as well. I just did it for other purposes. And this slowly led me to personal development, probably not in the sense that people are used to, but just in the sense of trying to figure out what's wrong and why I'm not performing to the best of my abilities and figuring out ways and strategies to fix it.
It's such a powerful epiphany that you've had of like, hey, this is me. Like my life is on me. It's not on anybody or anything else. It's kind of like your version of me realizing that I can learn things and I don't have to just accept things the way they are. I think both of our epiphanies have the same common ground, which is this shit is up to you. Life is up to you. If your life sucks, it's probably your fault. And if your life is great, it's probably also due to the work that you've put in. And I think about this so much because every business that I've ever built was B2C or B2B, always built around humans. And a lot of times these humans come to me and they think it's the lack of technique. Oh, I just got to know more, whatever pickup lines that I say for the girls. But also now with the business, they're like, oh, I just need a better lead strategy or better ads. And then a lot of times when I dig deeper, it's just like, yo, it's your mindset, man or girl. It's like your mindset of like things should be given to you, or victim mentality, or what's very, very classic nowadays is like this whole burnout thing. I'm so burnt out. I don't have energy. I don't know where all these people come from. There's so many people that come to me like, I'm so burnt out. I'm so burnt out. And a lot of time it really is just that they haven't learned yet. They haven't taken that step yet of like, yo, this is on you. This is your responsibility. Go make epic shit happen. And at the same time, these are two sides of the same coin. On one side, it's like, yo, you got to step up. Otherwise, your life's going to suck. But on the other side, it's also like, you can do this. Like with the right resources and the right consistency, nobody's cut from a different cloth. If Nikola did it, if Max did it, or whoever, you can definitely do it. And I think that is one of the most powerful lessons any human can learn. And then the other thing that I've learned over time, in my 30s, is that some people never learn that lesson. There's people
Yeah,
out
that
there,
sucks.
yeah, they're like in their 50s, in their 60s, and they're still in this like mentality of like, it's not my fault, or I can't do it, or it doesn't work anyways. This like cynicism combined with victim mentality, it's prevalent. Some people never get out of that. Why?
It's also learned helplessness with some people.
Yeah. So what do you think? Like, where does this come from? Why do you think some people just never make it? Is it a lack of, I don't know, mentor? Is it that they're not as strong with their willpower genetically? Like, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on that.
Oh man, I can't even pretend to know the answer to this. I can give an opinion, but obviously it can be wrong. If I have to make a wild guess, like come to my head, I think people undervalue what a good teacher and mentor can bring to the table to a person and to a kid. And we, as a society, I believe, and again, I can be wrong, have outsourced that role to schools. And schools, this where I come from, they just suck in that regard. They will teach you everything that will lead you to the life of a victim, like learn helplessness, everything that you shouldn't learn, that you have to unlearn afterwards as a grown-up. And I believe parents need to make more effort, like, put more effort in educating their children and not in specific, information and knowledge. And I think they overvalue information and knowledge, and they undervalue wisdom and character building and teaching specific character traits. So persistence, perseverance, courage, especially under adversity, knowing that when you're frustrated and when you don't know why things are not working out, that's a sign of growth. That's where you grow the most. Like you probably aren't growing as much when everything is nice and it's sunny outside and leaves are flowing and you're selling and it's easy. You learn the most and you grow the most when everything is crap, when everything's wrong, when leads aren't coming, bills are due, some client isn't happy. That's when you learn the most. And that is my opinion, why things are the way they are. Of course, I might be wrong, but I know of a curious statistic that a friend of mine who's really into psychology, she studied that as well, told me, is that I think 15 or 17, whatever, sub 20% of the adult population reaches emotional maturity. So I'll let that sink in for most people, what it means to be emotionally mature. It would mean to have agency, high agency specifically, to have self-efficacy, to be able to manage your emotions, to be able to assume responsibility, and not in the way that most people do it nowadays, where they just say, oh, I'm responsible for this, like follow up and, right that wrong. And that would be my guess. On the flip side, it's just social media, because I feel what you mentioned with burnout, because I also talk with a lot of people that are burned out, it's because they don't have that strong sense of identity. They didn't do enough identity sculpting, which is hard. Like no one does it on purpose. It just kind of happens to most people. And they assume values that aren't intrinsically theirs. If you go really into it, yeah, obviously the world is more deterministic than it isn't. So everything is probably influenced by something else. But for the sake of argument, let's discard that philosophical rabbit hole, and assume the world is as we know it. So what I'm saying is, most people see a lot of social media on, you have to be an entrepreneur, you have to escape the matrix, take the red pill, stuff like that. And they assume the only way to live a rich life is if you're entrepreneur, make a lot of money, do the social media thing or whatever that is trendy right now. And deep down inside, they don't want to do it. The best metaphor I've heard recently was from a friend of mine. And he mentioned that people burn out because they they push the gas and the brakes at the same time. And one is more subconscious and the other is more conscious. So consciously they're pursuing whatever goal. I need to make 50K per month. And subconsciously they don't want to do the work, or they don't want to do this specific line of work. For example, social media agency, whatever. So that's why they're burnt out. Like I don't burn out, and I work some days 12, 14 hours.
Yep.
Maybe not with like the highest of intensities, but I don't burn out because I love what I do. Currently, obviously there's some things that I don't like, and I have to do them because I mean it's life. You're a grown up, you're an adult, you have responsibilities and duties, but most of my work is either I like it or it brings me fulfillment down the road. And with some people, none of it happens. They just bought a mastermind, whatever course or membership, and they see all the people doing a lot of money that are more advanced. They're like, okay, I have to do this because if I don't do it, I'm not successful. But maybe they didn't want to do it, at least not consciously, and they end up burned out because they made it, but what of it?
I really love what you said about school, and that school fails to teach us anything beyond just information. And in today's world with Web 2.0, 3.0, we have all the information at our proverbial literal fingertips on our smartphone. So I don't think that school has caught up to that yet, because they're still telling us to memorize the endings of accusative, nominative, genitive, and so on and so forth. They still teach us to memorize a bunch of facts in geography, history, and so on and so forth, even though we don't really need to. I think what schools would teach us much rather is critical thinking. Like you said yourself, courage, self-development, self-awareness, social dynamics, which is going to be a gigantic
100%
problem.
agree.
It's going to be a gigantic problem. I mean, I hear this from my friends that are still dating coaches. They're like, dude, it gets visibly worse every year. Like the guys that come into the program get visibly worse year by year by year, because nobody's used to having person-to-person conversations anymore. Like just what you and I are doing here, just staring at a screen and talking to someone with zero distractions for an hour, 2 hours, whatever, is so uncommon for people. Is so uncommon. People have much shorter conversations. When they do have in-person conversations, have them have their phone in their hand, they're scrolling on the side. Even I feel that urge, and I would say a pretty self-aware person and a pretty disciplined person. I feel the urge to just grab the phone and scroll through. It's incredible. So my question to you is, do you don't have kids yet, right?
Not yet, not as of now.
Okay. Now that you know. So my question is like, and this is a question I ask all my entrepreneur buddies, because that's, I'm 32 now. I'll have kids at some point. Do you want them to go to school? Do you want to homeschool them? Do you want to send them to more like an elite school? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, of course. Because I hope to become a father soon. I mentioned that I am married, so we're working on that with my wife, and I've talked obviously a lot about that with my wife, and I don't care, to be honest, because I'm gonna put a lot of time and effort to teach my kid the qualities that are necessary for him to succeed, or her to succeed, no matter which school they go to. And private schools have, in my mind, just as many disadvantages as state schools. And I don't care that much for grades, but the system wants you to have the good grades so you can go to the good college, so you can have the good degree. And I don't think that much ahead into the future, because I feel like a revolution, or at least iterative change is coming to the model of universities. I don't think they'll last in their current state that long, because there's immense competition for a lot of fields. Everything that's not STEM science, technology, well, not economics in this case, but mathematics, whatever, hard sciences, or becoming a doctor, whatever is regulated by the state. So you can't really practice it without going to school and defending a degree, like very regulated. Everything else, in my opinion, you can learn cheaper, faster, and better with an online course with someone who provides like a private service. It's pretty much like the public sector and whatever the public sector decides to, like the government decides to invest in something, develop this program, whatever, it's just slow. It's slow as compared to the private sector. So it's similar here. So that is 18, 20 years what ahead in the future, having kids and them going to uni. So I don't think that far ahead. I'm thinking for the short term, up until they're 7, 8, 10, when they enter the school system, have I instilled in them some qualities that will give them the highest chance to succeed? So confidence, emotional intelligence, resilience, perseverance, consistency, delayed gratification, like stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure you can teach that to a kid. It's very hard, obviously, but if you put the effort in, and I'm at the position where I have the luxury of maybe working some days 4 hours if I want in the future. Not now because we're growing fast, but maybe in the future I can do it and just live off savings and whatever, not work as much and invest my time and energy in my kids. I don't know how things are going to roll out. I don't think what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, I can't know the future, but that is, as of me right now, and maybe in 5 years, if you talk again, I'm going to tell you that whatever I said here is retarded, makes no sense. But that is my feeling at the moment. And one of the things that I'm going to do for sure, and my wife already has agreed to that, is when the kids turn 3, push them into jiu-jitsu.
Nice.
Because it's a very natural sport for them. Because other martial arts where there's fighting, it's more aggressive. But jiu-jitsu is kind of like hugging, and it's very playful, so they don't perceive it as aggressive, and they're not that aggressive. And it does teach a lot of those skills, because even if you're like really good at something, there's always someone better, especially with jiu-jitsu. Like, you don't see undefeated jiu-jitsu fighters. Like, there's almost none. Well, actually none. Like, there's none. Whereas with boxing or whatever, you see undefeated fighters all the time. Maybe it's the sport, because some people have told me, like, whatever, sandbagging, I don't know all the technical terms, that they give them easy fights and they build a resume of being an undefeated fighter, but still, I mean, kind of it's more realistic in the sport of boxing, for example, maybe even MMA, to be undefeated than it is in jiu-jitsu. It's like absolutely impossible. Everyone got crushed at least once. At least once.
That's a good point. I totally genius idea, actually, to have him do jiu-jitsu for all the reasons that you mentioned. I think about this a lot, man. I don't know. It's probably age, biological clock is making me think about, I don't want to get kids yet. Kind of like similar to you, I guess. I have a couple more things I need to do here with the business. And then also I want to be, when I do have kids, I want to be there mentally, physically. I don't want to have to divide my attention between them and my business. I don't think I will ever fully retire from the business, but I will do a whatever 20/80 retirement, where I say I work 20% of the time, just with a couple handful of clients that are really exciting to me, nothing that sinks my time or anything like that. Because I think if I get a kid or kids, they deserve that they have the full attention of their father, probably also then their mother. But yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Exactly.
Actually, it would be cool. That's another cool thing, like you and I, or people like you and I that have been living their online lives pretty publicly. It's so interesting because we can document all that. Like, I can come back to this podcast 5-10 years from now and be like, this is what I thought. This was on my mind 10 years ago. And that's pretty cool. Like, the generation before us barely had that unless they wrote a diary.
It is true. And I'm pretty sure you know Mr. Beast, but do you know that he has recorded like 5 years ago, he has recorded videos for himself like 15, 20, 30 years in the future, and he'll
Yeah,
just push some of them until he's alive, so they'll continue rolling out 10, 15 years after he's dead. I think that is pretty cool. That is pretty amazing.
I agree. Yeah, Mr. Beast has done. It's so crazy to see him go from these like, because people now are shit talking him of like, yeah, well, if I had so much budget, I would create videos like him as well with like 100 people and Lamborghinis and stuff like that. But the thing is, if you look at his earlier videos, and that's kind of when I started finding out about him, was like there were zero budget videos, just him counting to whatever, 1 million or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that in and of itself is super genius because he found something that's interesting that doesn't cost any money. But I wanted to ask you something else, because you said like you guys are expanding so much with the business. I do want to talk about business as well with you, because you're an extremely smart person. Clearly, you're clearly very awake, very focused. Like I could tell, and I could tell this by the way people talk. It's like, are they using their entire brain, or are they like in DER mode? I talked to a lot of people. I talked to beginner entrepreneurs. I talked to established entrepreneurs. I talk to people that are in between, and I can see the same difference with everybody that has made something out of their lives, that has built a significant brand, but most importantly, people that have made a lot of money. They're awake, they're focused, their eyes are alive. They don't have this like coma look. And I see that in you too, is like you're sharp, you're awake, you're focused. And that's such a rare quality, I feel. And I guess that's the only way you can make money nowadays, at least as a male entrepreneur. You know, if you're a girl, maybe you can just do OnlyFans. You don't have to use your brain as much. You use other parts of your body. I guess you could do that as a guy too. But what I'm saying is, like in our field, you have to be sharp and awake. Otherwise, the market just eats you up alive. So what are you guys doing right now? How are you guys expanding? Tell me more about that.
Yeah. First of all, thanks for the compliments. I hope I deserve them, and everything that you said. And we've been expanding, first of all, internationally the last few months, and it's a very slow start. We're focused here in Bulgaria as well, and it's worth mentioning that we have two businesses. So one is e-commerce. We have an e-com store. It's doing quite well, and we do have the fitness coaching. And I mentioned also we have the podcast we started in Bulgaria, and we did start the podcast. It's unrelated to fitness, but we did start it as a lead gen source for our fitness coaching program. Why? Because our addressable market is small. Like Bulgaria is small. Like we have a high ticket service, and search intent of our ideal customer is probably not how to get ripped fast, but it might be how to invest my money, or something relating to self-development, personal development. So we decided to go that route because there was a space in the niche, and create this podcast and talk about other topics that interest us anyway. So business, mindset, psychology, personal development, everything related to that. And people will see us, recognize us as authority in that field, and they'll trust us enough to directly go into a high ticket offer, which is kind of what happened. Even people that stopped watching our fitness channel for a few years, they were reintroduced through that fresh new content. They're like, oh yeah, those guys, let me join that because now I need it. Because as you mentioned with Tyler, RSD Tyler, I think he told you, yeah, these guys are 20 now, but they're going to be 30, and maybe they'll be clients if you do business coaching, whatever. And it's the same with us. We've been doing this for 7, 8 years, probably even more, if you count the time where my business partner, Stan, was doing it before we joined forces. So we have kids that were probably 14 when they started watching his videos, and now 23, 24, and they join our high ticket offer. So it's nuts. It's absolutely crazy. So we did that, but it kind of started growing as a separate business entity as well. And it's very hard to scale one business. And if you try to scale 3, it's pretty much going to fail.
Yeah.
So it's the main focus is on the fitness coaching because it's the most fulfilling, to be honest. And sometimes we invest a lot in growth, and maybe the investment the return on the investment doesn't materialize immediately. So we don't make as much money as from the e-commerce side of the business or from the podcast, but it is the most intense, it is the most fun, and we have the largest staff. So I'm really looking out for my staff, and it's very important for me to generate enough revenue so I can pay them, because some of them have kids now. It's not like we were 20. Like, this is serious stuff.
Yeah.
And I need to provide for my team as well. And the motivation to expand internationally was that's the easiest way to pretty much double the revenue, and for me to double the salaries of my guys, because I feel like they deserve more that we can pay them at the current moment. So we're thinking, or at least I'm thinking about it this way. My mind is occupied with businesses and business models and whether or not they're deterministic, and to what extent the problem of the business is solved. So let's take chess, for example. Chess is 100% deterministic. Like, there's no chances in chess. Like, you do something, I do something better, I beat you. Like, there's no other way around it. And in this way, you put AI and you train it to play chess, and it just crushes all competition. And you can say that chess is solved, or at least some of chess is solved through bots and through AI and through everything else. And you have these entire sequences of games where the players, they just know the first 40 moves. And it's probably going to end up in a draw because, it's solved. The position is solved.
Yeah.
And that's why this guy who's the reigning world champion, Magnus Carlsen, he's the best, because he tries to take the game into an unsolved position by move 7, for example, because then it's pure chess. Then it's about skill, not about preparation. And he can beat you with skill. So it's very smart what he does. And fitness, because it's so deterministic, it's very similar to chess, because there is, for example, if you're a marketing agency, the last 3 years, the landscape changed quite a lot because of data, because of targeting. Like, it just changed a lot. Like, the emphasis now is on the creative, probably TikTok, not as much Facebook ads, depending on what you do. Like, it just changed dramatically. But the way you would burn fat now, 100 years from now, and 100 years before today, is absolutely the same. And pretty much the last 10 years with the evidence-based fitness wave, fitness has been solved. And if you take almost any channel, apart from Mario Tomic's channel, because he's an OG, he knows the algorithm of YouTube better than anyone in the fitness space. If they're doing like talking head videos, they're just dead. Like, the channel has like 1,000 views. If they're doing vlogging, which is completely different than providing useful information, it's just entertainment, obviously they're getting more views. And because the game of fitness, quote unquote, is solved, because it's very deterministic, everyone knows what they need to do. The problem is they're not doing it. So my mind is occupied with how things are going to change now with ChatGPT, which is going to solve even more this problem. Because right now I tried it before it became viral, and it kind of sucks for fitness at the moment, but that is at the moment.
Yeah.
And you're going to solve the problem of, can you make me a meal plan? Can you create a training program for me and just prompt 1,000 things, and it's going to give you a perfect program? That's going to be here in like a few years, probably, if not sooner, at least to like a sufficient degree. So this problem will be 100% solved. So what is the unsolved problem? Why are you not doing what you're supposed to be doing anyway? Because people kind of knew even before ChatGPT, it was just paying a person to do something for you, like manual labor, to take your order in most cases. Now a bot's going to take your order, but this problem is going to remain unsolved. Why are you not doing what you're supposed to be doing? And that's a central question of business, of personal development, of most of human nature. So I'm pondering on this quite a lot. And we pretty much decided yesterday with my business partners to kill all of our offers apart from the high ticket one. So the mid ticket, the lower ticket program, just dead, gone. Why? Because it's a solved problem. You're not adding any value anymore because this will soon be replaced. And what is going to replace those is an even more low ticket, probably membership, where you can provide value to a lot of people for a very small price. That's going to be on top of the solved part of the equation, because you can pretty much do even now automations and give a lot of templates and checklists and give something low cost, low ticket, so people can extract the basic amount of value. And if they want to have a done for you accountability, very personalized lifestyle / personal development program that helps you with fitness as well, which is pretty much where this is going to go for fitness, and with problems that are harder to solve, for example, mobility and biomechanics, stuff like that most people don't understand, and ChatGPT is like doesn't have the raw data to master yet. That is going to be the high ticket stuff of fitness coaching in the future.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. And in terms of systems and my role in the company, I feel like the most important thing you can do as a business owner right now is content and lead gen, because everything else, again, in terms of how solved is the problem and or not. I mean, sales is pretty much solved. You can find nowadays a lot of high ticket closers or whatever, or you can train a person. Delivery can be, it's like the easiest thing to solve. But then how to stand out, how to attract new leads, what systems are you going to implement, how are you going to push people through the funnel, that remains the most interesting and hardest part of the equation. So that's kind of where my head's at the last few months, and what I'm trying to wrap my head around. And we've been having some success with appointment setting. It's been pretty good for us because no one's doing it here in Bulgaria.
No shit.
Yeah, no one's doing it. Like they probably will. This is the first time, if someone is listening to this from Bulgaria, it's probably the first time they're going to be hearing about this, for most people at least. And it's just starting out. It's just starting out, and it's amazing. It's pretty cool how I haven't thought about it before I heard it as well, because it's pretty much hand holding a person through the funnel until they reach the stage of deciding to book a call or joining a program or whatever. And it's very personal. It's really nice. It adds a lot of value, both to me as a business owner later down the line when I start working with the person, and to the person to guide them to make the right decision. It's pretty cool. We also use it for our Discord, because it's a paid server that's with our podcast. So it's been adding like 3-4K MRR per month consistently with 1 hour per day, for example. It's very cool.
There's also one thing I noticed is actually one of our ads literally says funnels are outdated. People don't want funnels anymore. People need the hand holding, like you said correctly. People need the human to human connection. And we've noticed this too with DM appointment setting on my Instagram. It's like, I remember when Instagram started with the swipe up function in Instagram stories, it was insane. It was like, hey, blah, 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 apply for a call, swipe up. I would literally do
it was so easy back then.
Yeah, it was insane. I would do a single shout out on like a Tuesday, and I would get my entire week booked, and these people would show up, and it was just exciting. And nowadays you do the same, like, hey, swipe up. Doesn't work. It does not work. Instead, you say, hey, send me the DM. People DM, and you just send them through a DM script, basically, where you or someone that works in your team DMs these people. It's in essence exactly the same, like you said. It's like the exact same thing that the funnel would do, but instead of the person kind of clicking through it, it's like a human to human conversation. And I have the exact same thoughts about things like AI and ChatGPT, where I'm like, okay, it's going to make a lot of things easier for us humans collectively. It's going to make a lot of things, it's going to devalue a lot of the things that people are being paid for as we speak right now, copywriting, for example. I'm going to give you one secret here to you and everybody listening to the podcast. By the time of the recording of this, the last 30 to 40 Instagram reels that I post on my Max Tornow business account, the caption was purely written by ChatGPT. Not the content of the video, but the caption that I'm posting underneath the video, it's just ChatGPT.
Same, man.
Yeah.
I also wrote a lead magnet in 2 hours with ChatGPT, translated it with DeepL, and then just edited basically like some parts.
Yeah.
Today I wrote like 14 emails with ChatGPT because I understand the matter, so I can give the prompts and review it and tweak it a bit. And it took me 2 hours. So yeah, ChatGPT is insane, and I think a lot of people are scared because they think that it's gonna, take their jobs, took their jobs, like it was in South Park. Yeah, glad you can understand that joke. But I think it will only allow us to work on more fulfilling things, man. Because who wants to write captions for Instagram posts, man? That is stupid. Come on.
Yeah,
it's like adds zero value to your life. But when you have like a software that can do it decently, it's so liberating, because then that person that's for example writing your copy for the captions can now do content strategy, which also adds a lot more value to you as well. And he can also do that as well, so he can do both. So I think I talked with on the podcast the other day about this with one of the co-hosts, and I think things like this, by the way, will become a new business for a lot of people, because AI in the next 5-10 years is going to improve efficiency quite a lot. A lot of people will be out of a job, but also all of us will be making more money. And what do we do with more money? We spend it on cool stuff. And this is something that like an AI can't paint this, not at least now. Even if they can, there's this part too, like the personal brand. Like I want to own a piece of art by someone because I associate with his personal brand, not because it's painted nicely. Like I don't care about that. I want the personal brand, even if it sucks. It's about the personal brand. So that's why I'm saying I feel like content will be more and more important. I think companies we have, just chief content officers, whatever. I follow a very smart marketer guy, Craig Mack, Georgie Mack. Sorry, Craig Mack is a rapper, also rapper. But George Mack is really cool. He's very into TikTok, and he kind of made this prediction that companies a few years from now we have chief meme officers. I 100% agree with that, man. It's crazy to think about it. Yeah, but it's true. I think it's true. Maybe I'm wrong. We've seen 5-10 years.
I'll tell you one thing. Our best performing ads are all memes.
Of course.
Every single one of our Facebook ads that is performing better than the others are memes. And we're like, because it's funny, because we're an international make money online niche, one of the most competitive niches in the world. And we're like writing the sickest copy, having the sickest claims, epic testimonials. People are like, yeah, meh. And then we just started I'll never forget, the first ad that started blowing up was a Winnie the Pooh ad. The meme was like Winnie the Pooh looking normal, and then Winnie the Pooh looking like a sir, with the monocle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it was the stupidest ad. I literally told my ads guys, like, this ad is so stupid, man. What the hell? And he's like, oh, let's just test it. Boom, it blew up. Or the other one where the guy's on a bicycle, and he puts the stick.
He puts like the rod, in the spokes. Yeah, exactly.
And it's the dumbest stuff ever. But yeah, memes. It's so weird.
But you see why they work? Because you just said the guy on the bicycle, and I understand the entire context. I understand the entire context. You don't need to tell me more. So just, I think a byproduct of the short attention span that we have, well, most people have because of TikTok and whatever. And I'm not really surprised that memes work and that appointment setting works, because most people have such a short attention span. They need someone to pretty much force feed them and just type out the funnel to them, because they're too bored of reading it. And with memes, they don't want to read like a 10-sentence, block of text. They want a picture that they know and they can relate to, and they kind of know where you're going at. You just need to write like 2 pieces of text, like 2 sentences, and they are like, okay, got it. Let's move on.
Yeah.
So I think it's like the product of the same thing, appointment setting and memes.
Yeah.
And it's just very smart, this guy. Like I love him. Super smart guy.
What's his name? Mac?
George Mac. I'm just gonna send you his like Twitter or
Hell yeah.
LinkedIn profile or something.
yeah.
Like he's not very active, but when he posts it's just it's awesome. Like he's doing, I think that his team did 100 million views on TikTok, and like they're very good with TikTok specifically with SaaS. Super smart guy. Shout out to him. Learned a lot just from his public posts. So
dope.
Amazing stuff.
To go back to the memes thing, to go full retard on you, do you think that these like cave paintings that are like from the earliest civilization, where it's just like humans, whatever, holding a spear, do you think that was an early form of memes where also like people 10,000 years ago, they would just look at it like, oh yeah, just like and like I really wonder about this sometimes.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I really can't say. I like to think of it, and just by the phrasing you understand it's my opinion, but I like to think of it as an early form of art, of a way for people to tell their story. So it's no different than what we're doing now as business owners. It's just for a different purpose. So you do it to preserve knowledge and explain a story and tell it to the later generation. And we tell stories to make yourself seen in the digital space, digital realm that's very overcrowded. It's like a giant boiler room where everyone's yelling.
Yeah.
And you kind of need to either yell stronger than everyone else, or just like wear it like the only person with like a pink shirt with green dots on it or something, just like stand out in some retarded way. And memes kind of help you with that, and just being different helps you with that. And to go back to what you said about Mr. Beast, how he did it with like counting to 1 million or something like that, he was a master at this back then. And those people that hate and say, oh, he has the budget, man, if I had his budget, I would crash this company to the ground. Like I would completely destroy it. I can't do it. Like I can't do it, even if I have the budget. Like he's the special sauce in that company, not the budget. Like money is easy to get to when you have good track record.
100%. And that's also why it's crazy. These young, because a lot of times, our generation talks about the TikTok generation, like the 16-year-olds now, in a very derogatory manner of like, oh, they're so fucked, their dopamine receptors are fucked, and so on and so forth. But as much as I agree, there is also a big but in there, because these kids will understand human psychology and how to hack that more than anybody else. I work with a guy named Noah Morris. He's an advisor in our company. He also advises on a lot of things concerning our advanced clients. He's this 19-year-old kid that has, 15 cash cow YouTube channels that are making him shitloads of money. And
respect, man. It's
crazy. And he's traveling the world. And funnily enough, he knows relatively little about business itself, but he knows everything about clickbait, trending, and he just has it. And it's not even that he's gifted in it, he's just skilled in it. Because I don't want to take anything away from his skill saying, oh, he's gifted, he's talented. No. He's skilled at that. When I take a reel,
it's a learned skill.
100%. I take a real idea and I give it to him, and it's pretty good already. I'm pretty good at this. And he just, within 5 seconds, he's like, yeah, how about you do it like this? And I'm like, how the hell? You're such a genius at that. And that's due to the reason that this kid, with his 19 years compared to my 32 years, has had much more time to consume and therefore understand short form content, short form clickbaits, thumbnails, first 10 seconds of a YouTube video, and so on and so forth. So I think that generation of copywriters, that generation of content creators or content advisors is going to kick our ass so hard every single year.
For sure, man.
Get better and better.
I'm excited for that. I'm excited for those guys. Like they're coming up and they're hungry. And I think it's every generation is the same thing, because I can relate to my parents at least, or grandparents, like, oh, what are you doing? Like just chatting with your friends online. And then I went to my first corporate job, and all my elderly like coworkers were like on the keyboard. I'm not just like this writing 10,000 emails a second, and I finished my job like faster than everyone else. That's just the way it is. So it's the same here. It's the same here. Like we just like old guys. Like, what do I, if I make the thumbnail like this, and the guys just like, you like that's stupid. Just do this and this and this, and they just think about it in a very precise manner. They understand psychology. They understand the platforms
Yeah.
more than I think they understand the psychology. And
Well,
it's like with everything, there's advantages and disadvantages, and some people will use the platforms in a beneficial way, and other people will let the platforms use them for the purposes of the platform. So I think it's just natural. Like it's probably what happened with the internet, and what happens with TikTok and social media and everything else.
It's exactly the same that happened with TV. It's exactly the same that happened with books. It's like there's always going to be people that benefit from it because they're on one side, and there's also going to be people that just get sucked in and their entire life gets ruined on the other side. It's not, this is because a lot of people talk about, oh yeah, social media is ruining our brains and so on and so forth. No, it's not. Every single invention that we've had done by humans has caused a lot of good, but also a lot of bad. Inventions in and of itself are not predatory. They're not bad. There's mere neutral tools, such as money. You can make the same argument about money. Well, the reason why there's poverty is because there's wealth, aka money is the problem. But on the other hand, because we have capitalism, because we have money, a lot more people have access to education, to healthcare, to medicine, to all that stuff. So same with social media, like you said correctly, like there's a ton of people who profit from it. We profit from it like crazy. You can reach people, your ideal clients. We don't even have to leave our damn room. In order to be an entrepreneur 500 years ago, we would have to like physically travel the world by horse to sell things. We could have been kidnapped by raiders, cut our heads off, or just broke our leg. That's it. You got an infection, you're going to die. That's it. And now I'm sitting here blasting drum and bass. I'm having a cappuccino from Starbucks that was delivered to my door, and I'm just clicking a couple buttons and making a couple millions. It's crazy. And I'm totally ranting now, but it's exactly the same. Like the internet is all a lot of good things. Social media is all a lot of good things. But conversely, there's also people who just get hooked on it, and they spend 6 hours a day just scrolling through the Explore page on Instagram Reels or TikTok while their life just goes by. But guess what? There's been people like that in the 90s with television. Same spiel.
Of course, and with newspapers before that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
there's this famous photo, and maybe I'm missing the context, but a lot of people like are in an airplane, and everyone's just looking down at the newspaper. Yeah. So it's kind of the same thing if it's real, and if I understand the context. But
100%.
To be honest, I think like the remedy for all of that is personal development, and it's like meditation and having clarity and understanding what you want out of life. Because for me, like the Instagram newsfeed and the TikTok newsfeed especially are not, like, they don't attract me. Because I want to create stuff, and to create stuff, I need to do more important things. And I want to create cool stuff. I want people to hold the product that I've created and designed in their hands and say, wow, this is amazing. This is going to make my life better. It's for my own personal ego, and it's for my own personal selfishness. But if you have that proper alignment, then you don't spend that much time on TikTok or Instagram, because you have better things to do. Because in life, there are better things to do. Like you went skiing, snowboarding. I went skiing, snowboarding. Man, that's way better than scrolling on TikTok. Let me tell you that. Just going through the powder like a perfect line. No one's went through that patch of snow. It's like the best thing. Amen. So yeah, so it is a matter of alignment, and also having enough experience with flow state, I think. Because if you go too much through Instagram and TikTok, you forget what it is like to be in flow state. And if you're doing jiu-jitsu, if you're doing snowboarding, if you're riding a motorcycle, if you're doing even work at
Yeah.
sometimes,
Yeah.
you go into flow state, it just feels amazing. It feels so good. It feels way better than scrolling through Instagram and TikTok and having that dopamine hit.
It's addictive. That flow state is addictive. And the cool thing about the flow state is almost everything that creates a flow state is a productive thing. So you're creating something as you're doing it. Like the violinist who plays and creates a song. I'm a lot of times in my flow state when I create content. Same spiel here. So it's something comes out of that. There's like a positive byproduct to the flow state is not only the fact that you're in a flow state, it feels good and you're challenged and you're kind of zen with the world and all your worries are gone. But at the same time, something comes out at the end, a product, a poem, an email, whatever, an idea for a video,
A podcast.
A podcast. There you freaking go. Same spiel. Exactly. We've been talking for what now? An hour and a half. And it passes by so quickly because we're engaged. We're engaged on that exact level where we are engaged enough, but not too much. So we kind of freak out, but also not too little. So we get bored. And if you're just consuming, it is kind of like an easy fix, so to speak, right? Because you're like, oh yeah, I'm getting my dopamine hit because whatever, I see some people dancing or something like that. But at the same time, from the consumption alone, there is not really anything that comes out from it. There's nothing productive. And one thing I wanted to ask you, did you ever read Frederick Dodson, Levels of Energy?
No, never. Let me write that down.
It's incredible. I recommend this to everybody because he talks about, I mean, it's just a little woo-woo, but if you get over the woo-woo stuff, it's really, really interesting. Let me know when you found it. Levels of Energy by Frederick Dodson.
Yeah,
and
just wrote it down.
Yeah, perfect. He talks about, well, there's levels of energy to anything you do. There's levels of energy to any place that you go to. So for example, I noticed this a lot myself when I would fly from Kiev, which is where I used to have my office, to places like Zurich. You get off the plane and you feel the vibes are different. The energy is different.
Yeah.
And he denotes,
especially with Zurich.
Exactly, especially with Zurich. It's weird as hell. Like Switzerland just has such high vibration, whatever you want to call it. And he denotes the way he talks about it is quantifiable because he gives it numbers. He's like, okay, whatever. Apathy, which is the lowest, is 0, right? It's energy level 0. That's the homeless person.
Yeah, apathy sucks the most, for sure.
Exactly. That's the homeless person that is lying in his own vomit and doesn't care. That's 0, right? And I'm butchering this totally right now. I don't know the exact numbers, and there's places in between. But then, for example, anger is whatever, 150. So that's energetically a little higher. Why? Because a lot of people can become very productive when they're angry, right? If you look at radical fundamentalism, radical religions, they're like, you make these people angry because the non-believers out there, those are the people.
Yeah, look at sports. I think Michael Jordan was very notorious about that. Like, you make him angry, he makes you pay.
Exactly, 100%. So it's definitely more productive than apathy. But then it's not as productive as, for example, self-love, which is 250. Again, I'm butchering the numbers here. So if you do something out of self-love, it's definitely more, it has more longevity because, when you do something out of self-love, you probably do it for longer. It's good for you. And then above that is 350, which is creativity. And I know this, for example, myself, I am my most creative, or I'm less creative when I'm really worried, when I went through transitional periods in my life with my business where I was really, really fighting to stay afloat to be able to cover all the expenses. And when my brain is in this like fight or flight mode where like every single sale can be the determining factor between the business surviving or dying, my brain was not in creativity at all. I was just in like survival mode. My brain was not like, let's come up with cool video ideas. I was just grind it out and stay alive. But then because the energy level is lower, right? Fear and stress is much lower energy level than, for example, love, self-love, or creativity. That's why I'm feeling the most creative when I don't have anything to worry about, when I don't have any stress that I'm feeling, when I could just be by myself. That's also, for example, why during meditation, most people get a lot of great ideas, because they have that mental clarity and it elevates their energy level. And then, all the way up to, I think, 999 or whatever, which is funny. And this is really cool. The highest level is enlightenment. And that's where you've ever heard of from rags to riches to rags, because the person that is enlightened, doesn't need the riches anymore. It's basically in rags again. But then a lot of people from the new age woo-woo stuff, they confuse that 0 level apathy of the homeless person that lies in his own vomit with the 999 level apathy, where you're so enlightened that you don't need to have money, that you don't need to have fame, that you don't need to have anything that. So a lot of these people,
it's
for example,
absolute calm more than apathy, I think.
Exactly. But from the outside, it looks the same. Like, oh, well, this guy is sitting here in his robes and he's sitting on the street. Well, that means, what's the point of making money? So it's an incredible book. I think you like it, because you exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds quite interesting. And it's interesting that you say this, because I found about myself, and it's funny because my business partner stands the same, that we are most productive and most creative when things are not going that well. So we kind of are very risky in terms of investments or ventures and stuff like that, because when the ice is thin, we're like in the zone, we're like in the flow state. So it's very interesting. It's very interesting that you mentioned this. And when things are going well, it's kind of like, everything's nice, you don't need to do anything. I kind of relax a bit more. And how did Conor McGregor said it? It's hard to wake up hungry and go for a run when you're in your silk sheets and you're warm. So it's kind of like this in a sense. And I think it's a skill, to be honest, to manage to be motivated and productive and creative when you're doing well as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because your brain has just more capacity. It can get out. And that's also like why it's the hardest, why it's really hard for a lot of beginners to get into business, to get started, because a lot of them are just in this flight or fight mode. They've never been forced to think for themselves. There's just so many mindset fuck ups that are all coming together. Because like if you transition from a 9-to-5 into your own business, maybe you've experienced it yourself. It's like you're used to being told what you got to do. You're used to being given shit if you don't show up on time, right? Because your boss is angry or the teacher is angry. And then all of a sudden with entrepreneurship, it's like, motherfucker, you can go to bed whenever you want and you can get up whenever the fuck you want. But guess what? It's weird, because when I went to school, I wouldn't give a shit. I would play video games until 3 a.m. in the morning, sleep 3 hours, and then drag my ass to school. Since I have my first business, I'm taking this way more seriously. I'm like, go to bed now, wear your blue light blocking glasses so you're productive the next day. And like I take this much more seriously, but I had to learn it first as well, because there was no instance above me that would give me shit if I don't do this.
There was no forced structure, because most people they have is forced structure. So they need to wake up, they need to go, they need to work, they need to do this and this and this and this. And the weirdest thing happened when the pandemic started, because that force structure evaporated overnight.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of people that had more time, but they end up working less, sleeping less, and feeling really, really bad because they didn't know how to have a proper structure in their day. And we as entrepreneurs, we need to master that skill first.
Yeah.
We need to have a proper workflow first, then establish what am I going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to get me to the next level in my business. And then you just start repeating and improving on that daily workflow. And those people, man, they got blindside hit super hard. Like a lot of our clients, they benefited a lot from us knowing that and explaining it even before stuff started happening, and emphasizing, train even at home, like do whatever, just follow the same structure, don't deviate, just keep the habits, and you're going to be golden. And we talked to a lot of people that it just wrecked them, like all sort of issues in terms of, sleep was most affected. I don't know how you had more time to sleep, but obviously Netflix is right there. You don't need to shower in the morning. It just snowballed. And then a lot of people just felt alone, isolated, anxious, more anxious because of them not having a clear boundaries between work and home, because you work on the same table that you eat and then you sleep on the bed that's next to you. Maybe you work from your bed, which is a big no-no in my experience. Like, when do you stop working? When do you stop answering emails? So I think that is the difference between force structure from the corporate job and school, and then you having to create the workflow and structure. And some people that have been in the workforce for like 40, 50 years, what do they do when they retire? They still wake up early, and then they get dressed, and maybe they go out in the park, they do something, because it's just like a habit that's so ingrained. You have to do it. You have to do it.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
It's interesting how we humans need, we're craving for that structure. And if you're able to, like you said yourself, like build a track record of doing it once, you already win. And that's why there has been this trend recently with like content, especially for like people in my niche, of like shitting on this whole idea of like, hey, listen, I don't have a morning routine, I'm still making millions. Or like, hey, I don't make my bed and I'm still making millions. I agree at their level. Of course, you don't need to make your fucking bed. My bed's a mess as well. Go in there. I don't make my bed either. But for the average person, the person that's used to being told what they got to do, for a person that is used to just have a job and they want to build a business, small things like that, as stupid as they may sound, they're necessary. Of starting with make your bed, clean your room, right? Things like that. Have a morning routine. Don't look at the phone in the morning. Instead, have a morning routine. I think this is very, very valuable for people in the beginning. It certainly was very, very valuable for me as a stupid 20-year-old that all he did was just drinking beer for breakfast, playing video games, and just looking at pretty girls. That's all I did. So for me, someone comes along and says like, hey, listen, go build a morning routine. That was completely mind-blowing for me, and it was life-changing. So I think at a certain level, these things are super important.
I agree, because when you're at the level 1, you can't practice your discipline on content creation or business. Like, it's beyond you.
Yeah.
But you can practice doing hard things like not looking at your phone in the morning, reading for 30 minutes, meditating, making your bed every day, cleaning your apartment, decluttering, whatever. So it gives you practice, and it sets you up for success, because you feel better, because at least you did something. Yeah, man, if I have 100 million in the bank, I wouldn't care about morning routines, evening routines, man. I wouldn't even care about having a structure to my day. I'll just wake up and do whatever I feel like it. Yeah. Like, of course, I'm telling you, I'm not a very motivated. Well, I am a lazy person, I think, by nature. I'm just very motivated. I am more motivated than I'm lazy. So yeah, if I had the money, then yeah. But since I don't have it, I need to practice discipline. I need to have some structure. And I 100% agree with you. And this is the level where you can control your environment and practice that discipline and establish that routine and build a positive feedback loop of success and build your confidence and what is called in the psychological literature self-efficacy.
Yeah.
And if you look at a lot of different things like weight loss and success and whatever, people with higher self-efficacy usually do better on most things. And those are people that they believe that they can do something. For example, if you thought until yesterday that you're just a loser because you drank beer, whatever, and then 2 months from now, you're the guy that made his bed every day and meditated for half an hour, and you feel better about yourself, that's already saying something. That's already putting you on a path to success, in my opinion. And of course, you would grow above it at some point because you would make the money and you have the discipline and the structure for other things in your head.
Yeah.
Because you didn't make your bed. Okay, maybe I didn't make my bed this morning too, whatever. But when I go in front of the computer, I have the structure laid out. I have my team dashboard. Everything is dialed in. Systems are working. My mind is clear. I know what the next objective is. So that is a metaphorical bet that you made every day. For example, I hate finishing the workday without scheduling what I'm going to do tomorrow.
Same.
Yeah. And when I schedule what I'm going to do tomorrow, I can do whatever they want in the first hour of my day. I can just play chess, whatever. I can play with my cats. I can do whatever I want because I know when I go to the computer, I have a clear path to scale my business. I know what's first, second, third in terms of priorities. When you don't know that, it's a hell. Like it's very hard to make a proper daily workflow.
Yeah.
So I think what you just mentioned, having the structure, making your bed, it's kind of like greasing the groove, sharpening the axe, getting you ready for when you reach that stage. Can you execute it the same way? Can you transfer that? And a lot of people that have done martial arts, like you mentioned, they know that. And martial arts specifically, most of the time, they're not fun. Like for me, it's not fun to wake up at 6:30 and go get choked by 1,000 sweaty guys. It's not fun. It's anti-fun. It's like middle of rolling. I'm like, why the fuck am I doing this? Like, what am I doing here? Like, if you don't have an existential crisis in the middle of your workout, if it's fitness or jiu-jitsu, then at least some of the times, then you're probably not pushing as hard as you can.
Beautifully said, man. Beautifully said. Listen, man, I could talk to you for fucking 3 hours, but I know it's late. You know, I don't want to waste your time much more. But dude, let's do this again. Let's do this in person next time.
Sure. Yeah. 100% agree.
I'll come down.
I would love to do it in person.
Let's go. I'll come down to Sofia, man. Are you do you have any travel plans? You're just gonna stay in Sofia?
I do have some travel plans. I think going to go in the Netherlands in March, and I promised Mario to visit him in Lisbon as well. But yeah, man, we'll just chat. I would love to meet you in person. There's a lot of cool people here as well. I know you know a lot of guys, and I can get a networking session with a lot of other cool guys as well. And I would love to come. Obviously, next year we're gonna go snowboarding. That's for sure.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Let's make it happen. Where can people get in touch with you? Where can people follow you? What's the best thing? Because a lot of people are going to be like, yo, this Nikola guy knows his shit. I want to know more.
I sincerely hope so, because I'm trying to build a personal brand internationally. So Nick.Tomov is my Instagram. Yep. That's the best place. Nikola Tomov is my LinkedIn. I'm going to send you links to both. Both are fine. Instagram's probably a lot better. Yep. At least for now, I am going to start, post almost every day, but I'm going to start posting stories as well and better content overall. And in H2, I hope to launch a podcast as well in English, because you have a kick-ass studio. I regretfully couldn't be in the studio, but it's awesome. It's amazing. And I would love to host talks with a lot of the cool people over here in Bulgaria and from around the world.
Sick, man. Dude, podcast studio. That's one of the things I'm still missing because I'm traveling so much. As you can see, I'm just kind of doing the setup here. But what we want to be doing is we want to do a kind of like a mobile podcast studio. We're going to get proper.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Mics. Yeah, because also like I didn't travel as much over the last, funnily enough, I started traveling a lot during COVID again. Because nobody was there, everything was empty, everything was cheap, it was super epic, and then I kind of started getting into the travel vibes again. And I like the idea of just like you said, like flying out to a city to hang out with one or several people that you know there, shoot a podcast, shoot the shit, have a good time, and just have the mobile podcast studio basically ready, set it up in the hotel room, in the Airbnb, and just shoot the shit like that.
That's pretty cool, man. Like whenever you're in Sofia, you can always use our studio.
Sick.
Like that's for sure. Studio has like 3 cameras, very nice set with like Winchester couches, leather couches, cognac color. Like it's very cool. It's an awesome studio. I'm gonna show you the podcast just so you can take a look. And yeah, obviously if you want to be a guest, we can do a podcast in English for sure.
I'd be honored, man. I'd be honored. Well, bro, let's stay in touch. Of course, we're gonna link everything down below, and yeah, let's really like all the
Awesome.
best, man. You're such a fucking smart guy. You're such a cool guy, such a wise guy. I'm happy I got to know. This was the first time we've really talked, which is kind of cool, and people kind of witnessed that. So
Yeah,
let's
but kind of, I know you. Like, I know you through friends a lot more. Like, you're obviously super famous as well in the niche, and I've watched a lot of your videos. And funny enough, one day I had this guy who's a fan of ours meet me in the bar. He's like, "Oh, I just had a sales call with Max Tornow's guys, and I was thinking of joining his program, and whatever, some stuff happened. I think he didn't join, but yeah,
Because
I
you
mean,
did.
like, I know a lot more about you than you know about me, but it was very cool. It was very cool to meet you digitally, and I hope to meet you soon in person. We're gonna arrange something for sure.
Hell yeah,
We
man.
have so many friends in common, and we'll stay in touch.
Hell yeah. Let's make epic shit happen. Much love. Have a great rest of your evening, man. And
Thanks, man.
stay in touch.
Cheers.
Bye-bye. Cheers.
Bye.